Hi, my name is Frattura, and today I'll be presenting the portrayal of eating disorders in young adult fiction and analysis. From a medical perspective, eating disorders, or EDs, can be characterized by disturbed eating or eating-related behavior that results in the altered consumption or absorption of food, according to Del Oso and colleagues. However, EDs are also considered mental illnesses, which the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders first recognized in the 1980s. Moreover, open discourse can elevate mental health awareness. With the increasing diagnoses of EDs amongst adolescents, an increasing acceptance should naturally follow. However, a greater stigma is carried with EDs, causing many to experience belittlement from others. For instance, Levitt highlights how eating disorders are more associated with moral deficits, specifically narcissism and perfectionism, and are deemed to be self-inflicted. Print and electronic media portrayal. Vermont Othglass indicate that the drive for thinness, and therefore the resortment to disturbed eating behaviors, can be achieved through magazines. The messages present, agree Thompson and Heinberg, carry prevailing standards of attractiveness that aren't discouraged. Furthermore, Levitt explains how the deliberate placement of images in diction in women's magazines can encourage unhealthy eating behaviors. As displayed here, the diction of erase 8 pounds and be hot by Saturday suggests a dieting measure that ensures rapid weight loss. Having a celebrity pictured only associates these behaviors with beauty, celebrity, and status. Arguably more pervasive is electronic media, specifically television and film, that have also negatively portrayed eating disorders. In analyzing a corpus of 17 films, Hart attributes such poor depictions to stereotypes. The eating disorder protagonist was predominantly white, upper middle class, and suffered from only anorexia or bulimia nervosa. Also, scenes depicting disturbed eating behaviors were often glorified. These generalized beliefs can cause audiences that are suffering from ED to feel discriminated against, and can lead to others developing false notions of disturbed eating. This will further stigmatize eating disorders, and those battling them may hesitate to seek help in fear of shame. As displayed, previous literature has established that the media, such as magazines, film, and television, can inaccurately depict eating disorders. However, no study has been conducted to analyze the portrayal in literature, let alone young adult fiction. And thus, this leads me to my research question. To what extent do the portrayals of eating disorders young adult fiction novels compare, and what are the implications of these depictions? In selecting the novels of this study, a criteria was adhered to as conducted by Boyd and Bierter in their analysis of young adult LGBT literature. However, their selection criteria was contingent upon the authenticity representation, whereas I seek to analyze the portrayal of EDs themselves rather than for accuracy. The experiences of an eating disordered individual may vary, and from this objective standpoint, there is no clear or justifiable way to declare a character's experience as valid. A total of 4 novels were chosen, each of which are within the young adult genre, features a protagonist with an eating disorder, and have publication dates within a different decade. Having the publication years organized in such a manner revealed how these portrayals evolved with time. These novels are The Best Little Girl in the World by Stephen Levickron, The Hanged Man by Francesca Leah Block, Winter Girls by Lori Halls Anderson, and What I Lost by Alexandra Ballard. Following the selection process, each book was attentively read. A literature analysis was deemed to be the most effective mode of collecting data, which the Pacific Lutheran University defines as a more holistic way to analyze texts. As opposed to other qualitative research methods, such as content and thematic analyses, a literature analysis permits one to take apart a text and break it down into its separate components. Thus, the following annotation system was developed and considered when reading. Results and discussion. In each novel, there are common characteristics amongst the protagonists, especially in regards to their self-perceptions and in diet restriction. But there are also nuances in how they respond to having an eating disorder. For instance, the emaciated figures of the characters are emphasized, yet each character's sentiments towards their own bodies differ. As depicted, Francesca's stomach is not flat enough, it had to be concave, expressing how anorexia has subjected her to a perpetual cycle of body dissatisfaction. However, Laurel feels beautiful and perfect despite her bruised eyes and pale and thin hair, to which she likens herself to some fairy thing. Naturally, the plots and settings of each novel also differ, but were indicative of how they shaped their respective characters. For instance, the death of Leah's former best friend Cassie is pivotal to the plot in Winter Girls. As depicted, Leah can't stop thinking that she called Cassie 33 times, and her guilt culminates to such an extent that she's haunted by her ghost. Said haunting enables Leah to communicate with Cassie, who ultimately helps her recognize that professional intervention is necessary to escape Cassie's same fate, death. Ballard also reveals how Elizabeth's mother believes unhealthy food might pollute her lifetime supply of brown rice and probiotics, hinting at the strained relationship her mother has with food. Though it is not explicitly expressed if her mother has an eating disorder, the influence of her mother's habits on Elizabeth's eating behavior is substantial. Furthermore, two common themes are present with the diction and tones implemented by the authors of each novel. A recurring line of notion amongst all characters is that food is considered to be the enemy. Francesca perceives lamb chops and potatoes as opponents to overcome, as they were the enemy. Similarly, Laura likens the cake her mother baked as nightmarish and wicked with nuts and sugar. Moreover, emphasis is placed on the association of a lack of eating with purity. Francesca proclaims that she'll be thin and pure like a glass cup, and once Leah's dirt and mistakes have disappeared, she's shiny and pink inside, clean. Comparing food to dirt truly depicts the perceived futility of eating. The relationships the characters maintain, in addition to this, whether they may be familial, platonic, or romantic, are pivotal to the development of the characters' eating disorders. In The Best Little Girl in the World, Francesca's ballet teacher, Madame, encourages her eating disorder in associating thinness and success. She explicitly advises Francesca to stay slim and firm, as without doing so, she'll never be a good dancer, and even commends her that she's taking her body seriously. It is also the strained relationships between Leah and her parents that are significant to note in Winter Girls. Leah refers to her mother as Dr. Merrigan as opposed to Mom, and this harsh, nearly clinical manner in which Leah's mother is addressed epitomizes their broken relationship. Moreover, perhaps the most significant theme in any of the novels is that one simply doesn't choose to have an eating disorder, which is reaffirmed with What I Lost. Elizabeth posits that eating disorders mess with our brains. They became something we didn't have control over. Ultimately, although one may actively choose the first action of restricting or purging, they do not choose to be consumed by an endless cycle of shame and regret. A limitation of this study is that no guidance was, that all books analyzed only featured a female protagonist that suffered from anorexia nervosa, and consequently, there was no diverse representation of the various other eating disorders that many adolescents suffer from. Thus, therefore, in the future, I plan to assess more novels that contain either a male protagonist or a different eating disorder that character is afflicted with, such as bulimia nervosa or other specified feeding or eating disorders. Ultimately, this may provide insight into how the stereotypes associated with males in disordered eating are portrayed in literature. Ultimately, regardless of publication date, many recurring themes were present in each novel. It was revealed that the anorexic protagonists are often wholly consumed by their eating disorders. Restricting and not eating were often associated with feelings of purity and strength, and the relationships with the characters maintained played a substantial role in shaping their character, whether it may be in triggering their eating disorder or guiding them to recovery. And in situating this study in a greater context, fallacies of eating disorders present in the media may be more easily recognized. Such research implications would not only decrease the surrounding stigma, but may also generate an accepting atmosphere for those with disordered eating to seek help. Thank you. And here are my works cited.